You have to understand that the highest level of accountability is truly comprehending the fact that if you don't take the necessary action to create a specific predicament for you to exist in, the unfoldment of that event in the sequencing of creating that outcome will not happen. And so most of you guys, you think that the goals of your life is going to fall on your lap and miraculously appear out of the ether and time collapse itself to where you are. But the truth is that your goal is a mental inhabitation, a mental space, and your goal should be focusing and being so dialed in on yourself that your internal state, aka your character, navigates towards the trajectory of becoming the individual to have and then reflecting it in the outer reality. So the deepest level of personal development is understanding that when you become the indomitable, formidable, primordial version of yourself to get the job done at the highest level of execution, you will realize that your goals is an internal state that must be cultivated, and then through the consistent developing of self and the persisting of creating that outcome, so will the goal appear in front of you. But if the goal is not solidified in the character of your being and the movement that you take on a daily, well, you have to understand that your goal is never going to actually spontaneously erupt and combust into your reality. And so the deepest level of accountability is understanding that if you don't take the action necessary that is needed to fulfill your goal and to navigate yourself from the internal state where you are now to a higher level of personal development, you will never achieve your goal and you will die a desolate bitch. And so the best thing to do is look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you the one to get it done? And then when you realize that there are versions of you succeeding and exceeding beyond the capacity you are now capable of, that are living deeper and denser in your potential, who are emanations of what you could be within you, but what you refuse to evolve into, you have to understand that you are never going to reach the goal that the best version of you would have. And so what we have to understand is that life is in a constant state of expansion. Consciousness itself, to be existing, is to be expanding. That is the nature of the universe. How do we know this? Well, we look at the Big Bang, and the Big Bang exploded, and all the universe is doing is expanding. When we look at nature, when we look at our physiological sequencing through time, all we do is expand and mature. And so what we have to truly understand is that to be a regressional individual is abnormal. To be a stagnating piece of shit is abnormal and absurd. And so to cohere and align with the goals that will fulfill you at the deepest levels of your soul, you have to understand that you have to persist in the goal of expansion. And so I've said this before, your goals, they're behind the work you need to put in, the fear you need to face, and the personal confrontation of self. Because when you can confront what is shrinking you, you now exceed the threshold and pursue expansion. And so expansion is deliberately going to form itself the moment you choose to expand. But the reason you're not expanding, and before we even get into it, you have to understand that if you are not consciously navigating yourself to a specific outcome and regulating and modulating and updating your mind to match a coherent state to the individual who is the best version of you that has all your goals, well, you're most likely going to sink through life in quicksand. And so the best thing to do is understand that you can believe you're good enough, but there is a version within you that is better and deeper and more densified and crystallized in your potency, aka your potential. And so we have to understand that humans operate on a level of voltage. Your nervous system and brain regulate electricity, and your personal conduct, or what you conduce into your mind, is going to reflect your capacity and your potency of threshold. And so you have to understand that the higher level the conduct and the stacking of, to dial in and to compound the habits into a formidable primordial God whose conduct reflects a high voltage energy and the universe accumulating momentum absolutely mastering himself, his reality, and driving forth like a fucking speedboat into a fucking yacht, just crashing with impact, kinetic force, decimating whatever the fuck's in front of it. And so we have to truly understand now that if you are conducting yourself like a low-level piece of shit, if you're okay with Pornhub, if you settled for vape and video game, well, guess what? Your nervous system and your brain is going to be regulating itself and at a dysfunctional level to cohere to the reality where you're stuck in a perpetuated loop of escapism. Manifesting forth is video game, Pornhub, and vape. And so what we have to understand is that your nervous system and brain is going to regulate itself to the capacity of your voltage, which is a reflection of your conduit. Because you have to understand that we are waking up with something called potentialized energy. And potential energy is the potentialities of what you can pursue in your life. And so if you wake up and dial in on the high voltage habits, you will be a high voltage individual. But if you wake up, watch porn, and with zero energy move throughout the day, well, this is a reflection of your internal inhabitation. And so the internal qualities of your mind is going to manifest through the way you actualize yourself in reality. And so you have to understand that if you possess low qualities, well, you're going to be a low quality, desecrate piece of shit. And you're going to die that shit if you don't look in the mirror and do some shit to change some shit. And so this is why we cultivate only high qualities, and we decimate the low qualities, and we alchemize and perfect our character through the daily mastering of self and personal development and unfolding the highest of our potentials, increasing the bandwidth of voltage capacity by truly compounding, never excusing ourselves out of the work that needs to be done as a creature existing on earth. You have to understand that we exist in domains, and one of those domains is physical. So when you lack the physical compartment, your physiology is literally wired against you. And so the best thing you can do is dial in on yourself and perfect your monkey. And I'm not saying look perfect, but if your conduct is reflecting something that is intense, high voltage, and will get the shit done at any fucking means necessary, well, this is going to manifest through all endeavors, because this is a culmination, energetic concentration of willpower, discipline, resilience, and then you stack these through time, and then the bandwidth or the concentration of that energetic structure in your mind is going to unfold and is going to reveal itself through the way you carry yourself in life. And so once you master the physical domain, well, the mental plane, you have to truly deduct yourself. You have to deduce your mind. You have to write on a notebook, and you have to seek clarity. So what does Mateo provide? What does Neoteric Dissolution provide for you on these videos? He provides high-level mental clarity for you to absorb. But you cannot absorb high levels of information if you are existing in a state of deterioration. If you cannot be sober, your mind will not be in an optimal state. You have to understand that when you smoke weed, you kill brain cells. And if you don't comprehend the fact you're killing brain cells, well, in simple words, you have to understand that if you smoked weed for 5 years straight, well, you're going to be a dumb piece of shit in the end of that 5 years. And if you drink, you have to understand that alcohol literally eats your brain. And so when you drink for 5 years straight, you have to understand that you are literally physiologically and neurologically a stupid piece of shit. And so what you have to understand is that when you seek clarity, your brain has to actually be at a level to integrate the clarification. But most of you guys desecrate yourself through these profane behaviors and then reflect some mediocre, desolate piece of shit who cannot even compute with his minute inertia brain that clarity is going to navigate you to where you want to be in life. And so instead of picking up a bottle and escaping yourself, you can now look in the mirror, confront your reality, and create something you don't need to escape. And so we focus on the physical aspects of life. We maximize our monkey to a high voltage capacity, which is going to reflect the energetic culmination of the internal qualities that is fostered through the endeavor of maximizing ourself in physical input. And then we look at the mental plane and we deduce our mind and we seek clarity and we clarify to ourselves and we move in life like a high voltage entity, absolutely mastering and manipulating reality to conform and bend and break towards its will. And then once we master the mental, well, you integrate both of these things and you now have a character, a formidable primordial God who will get the shit done at any means necessary. So whatever goal he has for his life, whatever potential he seeks to potentialize, he will potentialize this energy because his character is a walking synthesis production of a culmination of superior conduct, and this superior conduct is going to reflect in all endeavors. And so once you perfect your character, your mind's framework is now easily malleable to integrating itself in life. And so the guy who drinks all day, who smokes weed, who plays video game, watches porn, and goes through life at a low voltage will be absolutely decimated by the individual who woke up and chose to craft a character through the brute force of bending his mind to his will and therefore bending reality itself by the absolute mastering of self-mastery, personal development. And so what you have to understand is you only live once, and everyone wants to be the masterful individual, the person who can give a piece of clarity, the person who can provide information for people to upgrade in life. What the fuck is your grade in life? What the fuck is your conduct reflecting? Your conduit, you have to understand, your conduct has a grade to it. And your conduct is literally creating and synthesizing your reality as you roll through the waves of life and you flow through the currents. And so what you have to understand is that the best version of you is going to get to your goals faster. And so what we do is we create a mental framework that can be applicable to any fucking situation of life and handle it with the utmost of certainty, to be undeniable in character, and to strive for excellence every day by grabbing a spear, a shield, and absolutely shitting on anything that seeks to deviate oneself from the path and bending reality to one's will to assert who the fuck and what the fuck, this culmination of synergetic productivity to synthesize an individual who is unbreakable, to synthesize an individual who can apply to himself to life in the most structural of mannerisms due to his internal infrastructure, which will manifest through his external behaviors, which will manifest patterns, which will synthesize a reality in the reflection of. And so your reality is a reflection of you. So don't get mad at the world for that bitch. But remember that the highest level of accountability is understanding that where you are and where you need to be is a gap, and the only person who can do the work is you, and mama is not gonna fucking save you. So look in the mirror, confront that bitch, and understand you live once, and the best version of you is a potentiality that exists deep in your soul if you take the necessary action to unveil who the fuck you are to yourself by maximizing yourself in all endeavors all the time and maxing out every area and domain of life, every dimension, the physical, the mental. And then you produce an individual who will culminate such and then produce financial. You have to understand how the world works. The pussies will die bitches and the winners will win. The powerless are powerless and the powerful get to the fucking top. And the only way you'll become powerful is if you potentialize the potency within your soul and you absolutely transform into the best version of you, and then you outlive what was put on you as a circumference for your potential. It's that fucking simple. Peace!